Hello guys, so welcome back to the SQL section of Data Engineering with Animation, and today we are going to solve our 27th question in the SQL LeetCode series. So now let us get directly to the question. So the question is exchange seats. There is only one and a very simple table which contains ID and the student name. ID is the primary key column for this table. Each row of this table indicates the name and ID of the student. ID is a continuous increment. And continuous increment is similar to auto increment where for every entry, the ID is increasing by 1. Write a solution to swap the seat ID of every two consecutive students. If the number of students is odd, the ID of the last student is not swapped. Return the result table ordered by ID in ascending order. Okay. And this is marked as medium in complexity level of lead code. So it would be a good question. So for example, we have seat table with ID 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And see, compare the two pairs. Uh, see, the IDs are interchanged. So one Abort now has ID 2, Doris has ID 1. For Emerson and Green, uh, the IDs are again interchanged. Emerson will have ID 4 and Green will have Emerson will have ID 4 and Green will have ID 3. And James, as it is last one in the entry and it is an odd ID, so it remains unchanged. Okay, and notice also indicating the same, that is number of students odd, there is no need to change the last one seat. That is why James remains the same or James remains the same. Okay, now let us come directly to the coding page. I hope you would have understood the question, but the problem is how to code it. Very simple. Case statement will come in handy in this type of statement. Why? Because every time you have to see if ID is odd. See like this, if ID is odd, what you are doing? ID plus 1. 1 becomes 2. If ID is even, you are doing ID minus 1. 2 becomes 1, 4 becomes 3, likewise. And if ID is equals to odd and this ID is the last one into the table, then it remains ID only. No change. Okay? So three condition in case statement and your problem is solved. See how we are going to write this. Select. For the very first ID, we have to write the case. So case comes first. Select case. Now first I will tackle this situation where we get if the ID is odd and it is the last one into the table, we don't change the ID. We return the ID as it is. This case when. You know how to check for odd when ID modulo 2 is equals to 1. Very basic thing. Just one more condition and ID is equals to select select count star from seed, then ID. So okay, this I think all of you would have understood. This is, suppose it is an auto increment table, means it is incrementing by 1, that is already mentioned to make our work a bit easier. See, is a continuous increment. So last ID would be equal to the count of number of rows, right? Suppose the last ID here is 5 and the count of rows is also 5. So that condition I have used. And ID is equal to select count star from seat. You can also do it by select max ID from the seat table. You can write select where ID is equal to select max ID from seat. In any which way you feel comfortable or you think that would come to me, that logic would come to me faster when you are sitting in any competitive exam, go for that. And then ID. So our first condition is done. What is the second condition? When ID modulo 2 is equals to 0, the even IDs, then ID minus 1, right? When you are dealing with even IDs, you have to just subtract 1 from those IDs. Like uh, Doris initially had ID 2, but now in the output, the Doris will have ID 1. Green initially had ID 4, you are subtracting 1 from it, and you are getting Green's ID as 3. Okay? Now, third case, when ID modulo 2 is equals to 1, and I'm just putting one more condition, and ID not equals to, and same thing I will copy. I will tell you why I'm writing this again with a just with a smaller change of not equal to, then ID and as ID. Okay, so when ID model 2 is equals to 1, so the conditions are 1, 3, and 5. But with this condition and ID not equal to select count star from seed, this 5 is eliminated. Now only the operation will work on 1 and 3. And what is the operation? Then ID plus 1. Because see, initially abort has ID 1, but in the output abort has ID 2. So we're increasing the ID for the odd IDs. End as ID and essential thing to write after case, and then you will do student from seed table and order by, because you have to give it in a perfect order by ID. Now I'm going to run this and let's see. Okay, some runtime error. Case when, oh sorry, ah, I used multiple time case. Okay, so just a small syntax error. I think nothing related to logic. I hope it works, and yes, it worked. So let us see the output. So see, we are getting the output in the format as it was required. So okay, so three conditions just to check. The first condition is if your ID is odd and it is the last entry in the table. So how to check the last entry? Either select the if the ID is equals to count of number of rows, or ID is equals to max ID from the table. So that we have done. And for even IDs, we are subtracting even ID by 1. See, like two for Doris become 1 for Doris. So if when ID is when ID module 2 is equal to 0, we check for even, and then we are subtracting 1. And last, we are checking for odd, but which is not the last one into the table. So we are increasing the ID, and then we are printing that column as an ID, and we are giving the corresponding student to it from the table, and then we are doing an order by ID. So very simple, just a bit understanding of a basic concept like case, you would be able to solve such complex problem which is rated as medium in LeetCode. So I request you to keep practicing, keep learning, and I will surely see you in my next video. Till then, goodbye.